Hello everyone, welcome to my channel about writing stuff. My name's Camille and today we're talking about your first page of your novel. Since there are so many blogs and vlogs about how to start a story and things you shouldn't do, I thought I'd make it a little bit more personal and in-depth. So I'm going to read for you today two first pages from two separate manuscripts. The first one is going to be a really shitty first page from a really shitty first manuscript of mine. And the second one is going to be in my biased opinion, a pretty good first page from a recent manuscript. And I'm really going to dig into these two different things, what I did, where I either failed or succeeded, and just, I'm really going to dig into these first pages, but I am biased because they are my own work. However, I'm also an artist, which means that I pretty much end up hating everything I've ever written at some point. But despite wanting to be a full-time writer, I do have feelings, so please don't crush me in the comments. I know the first page of the first book is really bad, but anyways. Incite panicked breathing. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. The first page from this first book that I'm reading called A Silent Singer, I remember when I was writing this book, I had never written a book in first person before and had such hard trouble trying to decide, where to start the story. And I'll go into this more after I read, but, the three things that you really want to do if you're stuck when you're, starting that story is you want to have a character in a scene actively doing something, which is not the case here. By the way, I totally named this book A Silent Singer, and my name is Camille Singer, and it's not about me. It's fiction, so it's just like it's fantasy too, and I'm terrible at titling things. Anyways, so let's get into this. I'm just gonna read the first page. It's like 3 paragraphs, so don't laugh. Okay, chapter 1. What small things? The dust of summer-warmed stone, the smell of cardamom and burning lavender oil, sitting in a field of cotton beneath a pale blue sky, a sun holding my olive skin. Salt from the sea carrying voices adrift over tall grass, the rustle of banners like so many flapping wings, a blissful ignorance, a simple delight, a voice to be heard, to sing, to climb, to hold, to speak. What small things? Okay, I'm going to stop there first because I will say that at this point my writing was not bad. The main problem with this first paragraph is that there's no character, there's no scene, and there's nothing happening. It's really just like wax poetic rambling about generalizations of the world. And when you're telling a story, you do not want to start a story this way because as the reader, you have no idea what the fuck's going on, who you're reading about, where we are, and it's just, making those pointed generalizations makes no sense. Making those general statements about the world or yourself or your emotions or whatever, the reader's not going to be able to be cemented in that. They're not going to be able to grasp that because there's just nothing tethering the reader down. Ugh. Shoot me in the head. Okay, so it gets worse. Chapter 2, or paragraph 2. Everyone has something to say. Though this holds true in all parts of the world, it is a rare gift to be heard. We hear with the intent to reply. When a battered, hunched waif with knocking knees and raw flesh says she is fine, the words are heard, yet they are not seen. The words are heard, yes, but her hands, tight and sullen, tremble around her frame, the red burning in her eyes, the tears blazing trails down stained cheeks. Those words are not heard. Those words are ignored. Again, more rambling, but this time it's just like painfully emotional and contrite, and I suck so bad. Okay, so, at this point, if I were just a reader in a bookstore, I would have read that paragraph, rolled my eyes, and put the book away, never to be purchased or read again, because it's just, there's so much drivel, and we still don't have character. Like 2 paragraphs in, we don't know who the character is. Narrator, we don't even know if this is first person or third person, or like there's just nothing. There's no hook either. There's nothing going on in this. Okay, I'm keep going. Paragraph 3. They was the first word I learned. Pause. So that's a piece of world building, and the reader has no idea what the hell is going on. And then I just throw in a piece of actually important world building right there that no one's going to understand until way later in the book. So again, don't do that. Introduce your world building as it's relevant. Especially don't introduce important parts of your world building in the middle of rambling nonsense when the reader doesn't even know who the character is. Okay, keep going. Like all old Surah, it is but a breath, a single syllable meant to leave the cage of lips with ease. They was the first word I learned, and on the day that I was silenced, it was the first word I sang. Again, at this point, my writing wasn't terrible, but we still have no idea what's going on. So that's my big tip is, if you don't really know how to start your story, you need a character in a scene doing something, like physically doing something, not just reflecting on the world like I apparently thought was a great idea, not complaining or whining, because that is such a turnoff for me, as a reader. I actually hate when characters right out of the gate want to complain or kind of have an emotional pity party, I guess. Another thing too, or a couple other things, is people always say, don't start with the dream sequence. Don't have a prologue that's not going to be about the main characters. Don't have your character waking up and getting dressed, those sorts of things. When I say have a character in a scene doing something, I mean have a character in a scene doing something meaningful. Everyone wakes up and gets dressed. Everyone has dreams. Everyone, you want to show your character in their normal, but also in a place that tells us who they are, what they're good at, or put them in a scene where there's conflict. What keeps coming into my mind is our YA books. Instead of having your teenage girl waking up and getting dressed and going to school, because everyone does that, have that character in a scene where she's at school and being bullied. That kind of thing. Actively doing things, conflict, hooks, those are the meat and potatoes that you want in that first page. So let's move on to the decent page. Okay, so this is the first page of the book that I'm currently querying around, shopping around. I've actually gotten 3 full requests from this and a few partials, and I feel really confident with this book. I love this book so much. I really want someone to love it too. But so this book is titled A Static Lie, and let's just jump into the pages so we can talk about what's actually working, and then, some of the few things that might not be working. Because even in great books, things can always be polished, tightened, or put together better, I guess. So, okay. London, 1832. Phelia Davenport shuddered on the pavement, a marionette in one hand and her blurred gaze transfixed on the black and white smoke swirling like birds towards the roiling night sky. Sun and copper flames licked at damp wood, the humid air giving no release to the suffocation of thick smoke against thinning lungs. Despite the heat which flushed her face and the thrumming pulse that wailed at her to run, Phelia's tiny feet remained planted on the pavement, even as the ground threatened to collapse beneath her. I'll stop there first. So that's the first paragraph of the first page. And as opposed to the last page that I read, we have automatically character in a scene doing something. We have character, we don't know a lot about her yet, but I mean, she's standing on the pavement in London in 1832, and she's staring at a place that's on fire, basically. So, I mean, we already get an image. There's not necessarily a hook yet, but that paragraph does beg the question of why is this girl staring at this fire, I guess. So, moving on to the second paragraph. The flames consumed the wooden structure perched above the cellar dwelling she had shared with her master for more than 4 years. She assumed the stone underground, with a constant trickle of filthy rainwater, was untouched by the heat, and yet the idea of her master still being alive, needing help even, was not enough to move her. So pause. Paragraph 2 gives us more insight into Ophelia as a character. And it tells us why she is staring at this building in flames. It's her house. It's above the cellar dwelling where she used to live. She has a master, and the house is on fire, and her master might be in there, but she doesn't know if she wants to rescue him. So that tells us about her, and that's almost a hook. It evokes enough intrigue and spurs enough questions that the reader would be subconsciously wondering, why doesn't she want to save her master? Maybe a question could be who started the fire, those sorts of things. And it really is the complete opposite of that last first page that I read, where just internal monologue rambling and then scene. This cements the reader. As the reader, you would be, I guess, visualizing what's going on, getting to know the character, yada, yada, yada. So, anyways, last paragraph for this first page. 4 years. More than a quarter of her life, Ophelia spent with that man, her master. 4 years, she scrubbed the floors of his laboratory, obliged every request and command as if she'd had a choice to opt out. She'd eaten cold potatoes, cold bread, cold everything, and slept on a straw pallet by the wall which grew moss as often as it rained, which was always. 4 years without fondness, flowers, or finery. So it's the end of the first page. And, with that last paragraph, we are already in a scene with a character who's doing something. And then we revert back into not necessarily some internal monologue, but the character is introspective. As she's watching the house in flames, thinking about her master, wondering if maybe she does or does not want to try and help him. She's thinking back on basically the cruelty that she suffered. And we get all of that in 3 paragraphs. That's a lot. That's a heavy amount of information to get in 3 paragraphs, and yet it's succinct. Sure, the writing could be tightened up and things like this. I have long flowing sentences in this book as opposed to the last one. But, also as opposed to the last one, we got 3 paragraphs. We got that whole first page of that book, and we didn't get nearly as much information as we did in this first page. In the good first page, we got character, scene, setting, what's going on, sensory information. We got hooks, we got questions, all of that. And then in the bad first page, we got none of that. There was no character, no scene, no setting, no conflict, nothing. And that's really what a first page needs to do. Your first page does not need to be a beautiful, flowery, poetic mess. Why did I say mess? Your first page doesn't need to be that. Your first page needs to do one thing. One thing. It needs to get the reader to keep reading. And how do you do that? You get the reader to keep reading by having a character they can connect to, in a scene or a setting that intrigues them, having your character doing something interesting. And then if you want to go above and beyond, you add in a hook, or you add in conflict, or something of this nature. Yeah, I really don't need to repeat myself. That is what your first page needs to do, and that's how you do it. It's not about, the introspective, rambling, pity, emotional, contrite bullshit. It is the stuff happening, your character interacting with the world and other people and their own internal feelings and dialogue. You know, it's putting that all together in a succinct way. One final thing that I want to touch on, though, is that, you know, when I wrote that first book, I thought it was great when I wrote that first book. And, you know, the writing wasn't so bad, but telling a great story is more than getting to a place where you can string together pretty words into pretty sentences. It's understanding story structure, what an enthralling tale really entails, so to speak. And the more you write, the better you'll get. It really comes down to, as you grow as an artist, you also grow as a critic. And you'll get to a point, I guess at the beginning of your writing, you'll have nothing to compare it to. So you'll think that first book is great, even though it's not, unfortunately. And then you'll get to a place where you actually see that you're getting better. But then slowly your ability to critique your own work gets better than your ability to create work. So you'll think that you're absolute shit and that you suck for a while. And then you'll get to a place where your level of being able to critique and your artistry are kind of, you know, toe to toe in that race. And you'll be able to actually look at your work and understand what's working and why and what isn't working and how to fix it. So that's your motivational speech for the day. If you are in a place where you think that everything you do is just trash, it's not. You just have to keep going and keep practicing. Like I said, please don't hurt me in the comments. But, you know, I'm obviously biased. So if you do disagree and you have some feedback for me, please drop it in the comments below. I love to hear from you guys. Also, if you have video topic requests, comment those, or you can tweet me at Camille A. Singer. Do I have a resource today? I don't have a resource today. I've been super MIA again because just life. So, no resource. Read books. It's always a good resource. Okay, that's all I have for you guys. So I'll see you next week, hopefully. And for now, you should be writing and reading and critiquing your own work.